Okay, Adam Carolla was a
Knew him very
really,
well.
really good friend of Bob Saget's.
Yeah,
and
they did
has
podcasts together, they did comedy together, very close friends.
So joining us right now is Adam Carolla. First of all, Adam, welcome and condolences.
Yeah, it's a tough day. I mean, it was a total shocker. I saw him a few weeks ago at a party. He was in great spirits. He was in great health. He was talking about coming out with his next stand-up special. It just, this was a no warning situation.
You know, Adam, we've heard the term America's Dad used to describe Bob, but what we've learned since yesterday when we were first working on this story, he was really sort of comedian's dad, especially in the comedy world. Like, so many people looked at him and spoke about him that way, like he was kind of a father figure.
You know, it was interesting. Shortly after he passed, someone had sent me a couple of pictures of he and I, and they were both pictures from benefits. So one was me doing a benefit for his deceased sister, who died of scleroderma, and he did a big benefit to raise money for that foundation every year. And then another was a charity that I was doing that he was at. And I thought, isn't that fitting of Bob, that the two pictures I have of him are both him doing benefits for other people?
So I'm so curious about this, Adam. He was this dichotomy that he's, this wholesome America's dad on one side and a comedian who really pushed the line and was just flat out dirty, and it was hysterical. Which one of these is Bob, or is it both?
Well, there's standards and practices, and, you got to get paid. And I think he probably overcompensated a little. Like, I think he wanted people to know he wasn't Mr. Tanner. So I think for him, he had to fight against this narrative that he was this sort of, milquetoast, G-rated family primetime sitcom dad. And so he probably pushed harder against that image when he got up on stage.
And it worked for him because I know, it happened the first time I saw him do stand-up, but I've heard everyone say, like, I just saw Bob Saget. Oh my God, that's not the guy from Full House. I'm like, yeah, he's just a different guy on stage. So in the comedy world, though, Adam, we hear the tribute that I thought that really stood out the most this morning, aside from his co-stars on Full House, obviously, but the one from Pete Davidson, where he spoke about him, like, really caring about what Pete was going through that had nothing to do with comedy. And I'm just wondering how often you've heard stories like that or even experienced that with Bob.
Well, Bob was just one of the good ones. Comedy attracts a lot of broken toys sometimes. And we've all heard the stories in the negative direction, but it also attracts some really interesting, deep, loving people. And Bob was just one of them. You don't have to be a head case to do comedy. It helps, but sometimes there's some regular, nice human beings that show up on a comedy stage, and Bob was that person.
Adam, I was just thinking about the fact that, the last show he did on Saturday night in Jacksonville, he had posted something where he said, God, I'm really loving this being back on stage because of, the pandemic closing down so many places. But he did like 2 hours, and I'm just thinking, God, there couldn't be a more fitting way. Obviously it's a tragedy that we lost him, but for him to have that experience as his last one, I think is just perfect.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I was listening to his last podcast today, hearing his voice as if he was still here. And I thought, in a weird way, with all the podcasts and all the digital and all the everything, all the tweets and everything, do you really die anymore? You can watch thousands of hours of Bob Saget hosting shows and Full House and stand-up specials and podcasts and everything else. In a way, you could go back and get to know Bob Saget all over again if you wanted to embark on that journey.
It's so true that, it used to be that things were not accessible once they aired, and they are now, and his memory lives on for that. Adam, we really, really appreciate the time. And again, we're so sorry because we know you were very close to him. Really sorry.
Thank you, guys.